Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Asato ma Madgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our pranam at the lotus feet of all the divine masters of wisdom. I would specially like to offer my gratitude to Sri Prabhuji, who is my Karana Guru, who is guiding me on the path of Atma Vichara, and under whose guidance I am able to understand, to some extent at least, all the teachings of great masters. May their blessings, may their grace, which is always with us, establish us in the self. So just a few days ago, I happened to be an examiner at a Viva in a college, and we evaluated the work of students. They put up their sheets, they explained their designs, and while they were talking, we listened to them, we assessed their designs, and we marked them on a relative scale, depending on who was very good. They got somewhere in the 90s. Those who were not able to come up to the required standard probably didn't pass also. There were a few of them. So after we completed the entire Viva process, normally we just upload the marks on the university portal and we are done. But on that day, we were taken, I will not name the name of the college or anything, but we were taken to the to the chamber of the principal, the dean, and then he started pressure upon us to change the marks of students, which is not supposed to happen in any college. So being external examiners, we usually give marks and that is confidential and it is uploaded. So much pressure was exerted upon us to pass students, to give more marks to some students, etc. Later, I came to know that this is practice followed in quite a few colleges. So much of control. We don't like to relinquish control. We call external examiners, we invite external examiners, we tell them we want an unbiased evaluation because they have not taught the students, so they will judge on the merit of the design without any kind of bias. And then there is so much of, grabbing, trying to grab control and change the marks, which nullifies the entire system of having an external examiner. So this is one instance. All through the day, I will not even say life, all through our day, if you see from morning till night, there is this war for control going on. It may be in the kitchen, it may be in the workplace, it may be just who gets the newspaper first or who gets more cream in their coffee. So we don't know where. In every single step that we take, every single instance of life, either very subtly or in very blatantly, this desire to take over control, to retain control, the reluctance to relinquish control. So this we can see. It is there in my life also. I see it from morning till night. It is happening. The Vasana package keeps on coming, coming back into action. So this is happening. Then from the spiritual point of view, how does this impact us? So today's topic is relinquishing control. To whom do we relinquish control? Who relinquishes control? So all this for me was inspired when I was listening to some children interviewing Prabhuji, Sri Narasimha Prabhuji, who is the founder of Light of the Self Foundation, a great jnani. So some children who were in part of a program that is being run by Light of the Self, they were interviewing Prabhuji. And one child asked the question, Prabhuji, which was the most enjoyable phase in your life? Which is or which was the most enjoyable phase in your life? So this was the question. Now, before I give you Prabhuji's answer, which some of you may know or remember, we have this phase of childhood, right? All the fun and frolic of childhood, playing with balloons, having friends, not having to think beyond the present moment. So you're living mostly in the present moment as a child, leaping with joy, maybe crying, but getting over it very quickly. Yeah. Then we have college. We all went to school, we went to college, we had different kinds of friendships in college. We had fun there also. Hard work and fun, both achievements, prizes, awards. Then we got into a job, so we had a professional life maybe, or we got married, we had children. So family life, that has its own joys, right? Then some of us may be middle-aged or maybe senior citizens. So that we have finished a lot of our responsibilities, we can be relaxed, we have more time. So this has its own benefits. According to you, you can just type a word or a phrase, which was the most enjoyable phase or which is the most enjoyable phase for you in your life and why? Just very short, one sentence would do. So somebody says teaching. Teaching was a very enjoyable phase. Wonderful. Katyayani ji, you're already very wise. She says this is the most enjoyable moment. Nobody can catch her. Guru Prasad says his boyhood was the most enjoyable stage. Wow, Purnima, already a sage. Very nice. Very nice answers. Keep them coming. We'll wait for another few seconds. Okay, Ganeshan ji says senior citizen life. All responsibilities done. Yes, sir. Okay, we have a lot of jnanis here today. Prashant says, right now enjoying. Thank you, Prashant. Then Harshal says, childhood because there is no ego. Yes, excellent. In childhood, there is no ego. Again, we have one more. Dr. Venkatachalapati is saying childhood. Anurao is saying be in the moment. Okay. Wonderful answers by everybody. Thank you so much. So would you now like to know what Prabhuji replied to the question of the child? Okay. So Prabhuji said, the phase where I am aware that God is taking care of my life is the most enjoyable one. Extremely wise answer. The minute God is in charge, we are free, right? So this reply of Prabhuji. I found it so inspiring that my entire talk is actually built around this answer. So the phase where I am aware that God is taking care of my life is the most enjoyable phase. That's what Prabhuji said. So let's see what Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 4th chapter, Sri Krishna says, neither in this world nor elsewhere, that means nor in the higher worlds after death, is there any happiness more for him who has always doubts. So before this, there is a precursor. Always we have to take any shloka in its context. So in the shloka before this, 2 shlokas before this, if we go, Sri Krishna says, there are 2 ways to inner peace. One way is jnana, the knowledge that comes from being established in the self. When you are a jnani, when you know your true nature, then you are peace. No one can take it away from you. Then he says there is another way also when your mind can become very serene. What is that way? He says to have complete faith. Faith in what? Complete faith, maybe in the grace and benevolence of God, maybe in the wisdom of the Sadguru who may be guiding you. So when a disciple has complete faith or a devotee has complete faith, his mind or her mind is very serene. Less oscillation between suffering and joy, between expectation and disappointment. So there is less of oscillation happening. Then in the 2nd chapter, Sri Krishna says, the one who is motivated only by the desire for the fruits of their action and anxious about the results is miserable indeed. In fact, he uses the word miserly also. So if I'm always worried about reaping the fruits of my action, I must get the benefits of every act of mine. Then what happens? I'm very miserly. I'm not willing to share the fruits with other people. Another thing happens, because I'm always on tenterhooks. Oh, will I be successful or not? Will I get the kind of result that I expect? I may be successful. Recently, a candidate here in Jayanagar won by 16 votes. Right? Lot of recounting happened. So that may not be the measure of success he expected. Maybe he expected thousands of votes will be in his favor. So the measure in which we expect, that may not come to us also. Or we may get something which we don't like at all. Then we are so disappointed. So that is what Sri Krishna is saying. Always you're oscillating between misery and happiness, anxiety, tension, stress. So these are 2 things. So he's telling Arjuna, don't worry about reaping the fruits of your action. Offer your fruits to me. Relinquish control to some extent. Straight away to say I'm not the doer may be difficult for many of us. So in stages you relinquish control. Just say, I'm performing this action, but the fruits I offer to you. And what do I wish for? He says, wish only for jnana, work only for jnana, for self-knowledge. That is the only goal worth having. So this is what Krishna is telling us in the Bhagavad Gita. So just I was thinking this over and I remembered this story. So there was a king. We think today's life is very stressful, right? So many things to do, so many deadlines, so many agendas, so many people to satisfy. Now, this king, of course, the age of kings is past. We all know that. So, this king started feeling the stress of his position very much. His neighbors wanted to take over his kingdom, so he always had to have a very good army, well trained, well equipped. He had to spend a lot on defenses. At the same time, his subjects expected a lot of welfare activities from him. In his own family, there was stress and tension. Within the kingdom, there were people who wanted to take over. Kissa Kursika. So they wanted to, his own family, some branches of his family wanted to overthrow him from the throne. So many stresses. One day he felt, I'm unable, I'm tired, I can't take this anymore. I'm done. But he can't just hand over. His children are still too small, his heirs are too small. So what to do? He had a guru. So he went into the forest where his guru's hermitage was, and he went and spoke to that guru and he said, Guruji, please help me. I'm so tired, I'm so tired. Please suggest somebody to whom I can hand over the kingdom. So the guru straight away said, okay, hand over your kingdom to me. I will take charge of it. So immediately the king was very, very happy. Who better than his wise guru to rule the kingdom? So he said, Guruji, I completely relinquish the kingdom to you. It is yours, take it. Okay, fine. Guru said. Then he said, now you are my Shishya. I am giving you this kingdom to rule as a caretaker. The kingdom belongs to me. Okay? You are only a caretaker ruler. You go back and rule as my servant. Initially, the king was taken aback. The whole incident had taken a completely different turn from what he expected. But then he had a lot of faith in his guru. So he said, all right, Guruji, I will go and rule as your caretaker. And he went back and he started ruling. The same enemy kings are there at the borders. The same people who wanted to overthrow him earlier want to overthrow him now. The citizens are still expecting a great deal from him. But he's not at all perturbed. He's not at all stressed. Because the kingdom now doesn't belong to him. It belongs to his guru. He is only a caretaker. So he finds he is very relaxed but alert. He's able to make the right decisions and is stress-free through the day. So what made the difference? What made the difference was relinquishing control. Now he feels my Guruji is in charge. I'm just, I'm a caretaker, that's it. Like Bharata ruled over Ayodhya. In the name of Rama, he ruled Ayodhya for 14 years. So in the same way, the king felt that stress has completely gone from his life. This is a example which we all know. Here is a train. We have seen, we have also stood on the platform, we have waited for trains. So there is this man. This is not a porter, okay? This is a passenger. Look at how much luggage he has. He gets into the train and he's standing like this with the luggage still on his back inside the train also he's standing there. When somebody asks him to sit to keep the luggage down, he says, no, 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 no. I want to carry my own bags. I don't know whether the train is capable of carrying my luggage or not. It's very heavy. I want to keep it myself. So finally, some passengers convince him, and he keeps the luggage on the luggage rack and he sits down, which is when he realizes what? Who carries the burden? The train is not only carrying his luggage, it is carrying him also. So that is what most of us forget. We think we are doing everything. We think we are responsible for everything. Therefore, we have a lot of stress. But finally, it is Ishvara. It is Ishvara whose Jagat this is. It is Ishvara who is carrying us and our burdens. If we offer it to him, if we relax and just we are ready to accept life as it comes, then immediately we feel so much reduction in the stress level. Right? So this is from Arunachala Akshara Manamalai. So this is a composition of Sri Ramana Maharshi. How did Ramana Maharshi come to compose this Arunachala Akshara Manamala? It has 108 shlokas, and it is written from Arunachala Akshara Manamala. Means Akshara, of course, is immortal. Manamalai means marital garland, the garland that a bride offers the groom. So Ramana is thinking of himself as the devotee and Arunachala as the bridegroom. So every jiva is a bride and the self is the bridegroom. Arunachala is none other than the self. So the immortal garland of verses to Arunachala. In the olden days, when Ramana Maharshi was staying in Virupaksha cave or in Skandashram, on somewhere in the middle of the Arunachala mountain, many of his devotees were dependent on begging for alms. Bhikshe bedta idu. Then they would bring those alms back to the ashram and they would share it with Bhagwan and everybody who would be there. So to beg for alms, we know that a beggar will stand outside our house and he will say, Bhavati Bhikshan Dehi Amma, Bhikshe Hakama. They may have their own ways of asking for alms. So all the ascetics who used to beg for alms, they had a certain song. These devotees of Bhagwan, they would first blow the conch when they began descending the mountain. So from somewhere on top of Arunachala, they would blow the conch, but people in the town would hear it. Then after coming down and reaching the town, they would again blow the conch. It was a small town in those days. And then they would start singing the current devotional hymns, which were popular in those days. And they would go down the streets. And there were many devotees of Bhagwan who would be waiting for these ascetics to come because they had great reverence for Bhagwan. And they would keep their alms ready and offer it to them. Then slowly what happened? Rival groups of beggars and sadhus, rival in the sense of they were not devotees of Bhagwan. They might have been very, very meritorious in their own benefit. Spiritually, they may have been meritorious. But they started doing the same thing. They would sing the same songs. They would blow the conch in the same way. And they came a little earlier than Bhagwan's devotees. And they would take away all the alms. And when Bhagwan's devotees came down, hardly any alms would be left for them. Because the devotees who gave the alms were not aware that the first group that came were not the regular devotees who came from the hill. So they all went and asked Bhagwan, Bhagwan, you please write a special, different kind of a composition for us so that when we sing it, everybody should know that we are from Ramanashram. So after a few days or weeks, one day Bhagavan was walking around. He frequently did Girivalam. He would walk around Arunachala, Pradakshine around Arunachala. So when he was circumambulating around Arunachala, 108 shlokas, verses in Tamil, they just flowed from him. A devotee who was ready with a pencil and a paper started noting down all the verses as Bhagwan started chanting. So this has been translated into Kannada by Lakshmi Narayana Bhatta, and this is the 31st and 32nd verses from Arunachala Aksharamana Mala. I'll just sing it to you. ಅಡಗಿ ನುಡಿಯ ಸುಖ ಜಲದಿ ಮೀರಲು ನೆಲಸೋ ಎದೆಯಲಿ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ವಂಚನೆ ಸಂಚು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆಯ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಿ ಘನ ಮಿಂಚ ಹೊಳೆಸುನಿ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ. So I made an attempt to translate this into Kannada into English for those who may not follow the Kannada words. Rest in my heart silently till the ocean of bliss overflows and submerges all chatter, O Arunachala. Scorch my deceit and conspiracy with the lightning of your presence. Fill me with your light, O Arunachala. So when we become very, very happy, we can't talk externally. The chatter in the mind also stops, right? For a short time maybe, but it stops. So here Bhagwan, on behalf of the devotees, he is praying to Arunachala. Aruna and Achala. Aruna is the dawning of Jnana. Achala is stillness. The one who is established in the self, in self-knowledge, is very still inside. There is no chattering of the mind. So he is saying, rest in my heart silently, O Arunachala, till the bliss just overflows from my heart and my mind stops chattering. On one side, Bhagavan says there is deceit and conspiracy on the behalf of Arunachala also. He says, Arunachala, this Maya that is wielded by your Shakti, it is very, very, very cunning. You are taking on so many forms. Everything in this Jagat is you alone, but you are deceiving me. I feel that this person is different from me, this lake is different from me, this mountain is different from me, this dog is different from me. But they're all you alone. You're trying to fool me. Stop that. I'm also trying to fool you. How? I have forgotten that you and I are one. We are not different. I am also Satchidananda like you. I am also stillness. And I keep on fooling myself that I am this body, mind, and intellect. I think all the thoughts that come into the mind are me. I think all the images my mind builds are me. Everything that happens to my body is happening to me. So I am also conspiring. You are also conspiring. So let us put an end to this conspiracy. Let us put an end to this deceit. Enough. Let's not cheat each other. With the lightning of your presence, you're ever present. This body is you, this mind is you, this intellect is you. Everything is you, but I'm not able to see it. So with the lightning of your presence, though it is ever present, make it blatant to me. Fill me with your light, O Arunachala. So this is what Bhagwan composed in the 32nd and 30th and 31st shlokas. So this teaching of Nisargadatta Maharaj has been very inspiring for me for many years. He says, just realize the one mover behind all moves and leave all to him. If you don't hesitate or cheat, this is the shortest way to him. Stand without desire and fear, relinquishing all control and all responsibility to him. So whatever happens, not just in my life, in everybody's life, not just in everybody's life, in the entire universe, everything that happens, the sun shining, the planets rotating, the earth revolving, it's raining outside, so rain falling from the clouds, sun shining on the trees, crops growing, every single thing that happens is happening only because of the one mover, the creator of the whole universe. So Nisargadatta Maharaj says the shortest way is surrender. If you don't hesitate, oh, if I surrender to God, I don't know whether He'll protect me or not. I don't know. He may not do anything. He has not always protected me. That's what I feel. So how to just surrender like that? Or that is hesitation or cheating. Oh, I've surrendered. ನಾನು ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವನ ಪಾದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಪ್ಪ. I've offered everything at his lotus feet. Whatever he does, it is fine with me. We say that, and if we, after saying that, if we go to a restaurant and we order coffee, and that restaurant says, today we are out of coffee, can I give you tea? Immediately we say, Arre, it's there on your menu. How can you say you're out of it? What are we doing? Have we surrendered? Whatever is happening in my life, I am fine with it. So one day something happens, some kind of illness comes. Am I fine with it? If I am not, that means I have not surrendered. I am cheating myself, right? I am saying I have surrendered. I have surrendered only when things happen as I want them to happen. Ah, God is great. I say, really so great. My God, His grace is amazing. The smallest thing happens which is not what I like. Hey, what is this? Yeah. They say God protects you, God takes care of you. See now, where is it? So that is cheating. It is not true surrender. So Nisargadatta Maharaj is saying, it is, as long as we have desire and fear, they are the only two motivating emotions for all of us. We will hesitate or we will cheat. We will have expectations. It is not possible to be without expectations if you have desire or fear. We can relinquish control and responsibility only when we are free from desire and fear. So if we look at Bhagwan's life, once he came to Tiruvannamalai, just a boy of 17, he's sitting in the Patala Linga. All those of us who would have gone to Tiruvannamalai would have seen that in the beautiful, huge precinct of the Arunachala temple. Near the 1,000-pillared hall, there is this Patala Linga. You have to go down and there's a linga there. So Bhagwan spent many months probably sitting there, because when he sat in the 1,000-pillared hall, boys who were just like him, they found it strange that he would not come and play with them. He would just sit with his eyes shut, not responding to their calls. They would start stoning him. So he was sitting in the Patala Linga. So many insects. They bit him so much. Even after he came out from them, years later, after he came out from the Patala Linga, there was a scooped out area on the inner side of his thigh. He was not bothered about getting food, he was not bothered about getting water, he was not looking for human companionship or any kind of companionship. He's established in the self and it is still new to him, and he is just immersed in the bliss. Even though he knows what is happening around him, he is bliss. So at that time, different people came and they would put whatever Abhisheka Panchamrita was there, they would put that into his mouth. They would open his mouth and pour it in, make him swallow it. So many people, Ishvara worked through so many devotees, sustaining the body of this wonderful Jnani, because he had completely surrendered. He had no desire and he had no fear. If he died, he was not afraid. If something happened to him, he was not afraid. To the body, he was not afraid. Neither was he even desirous of a little bit of food or water or anything. No vestige of desire or fear. He had completely relinquished all control and all responsibility. When he came to Tiruvannamalai, all the doors of the different prakaras were open, and the door of the Garbhagriha was also open, and there was nobody around. So Ramana just walked in and he hugged the linga, Arunachala linga, and he said, "Father, I have come." That was it. So everything was left at the feet of Arunachala. In a sense, in the sense of speaking of Jiva Jagat Ishvara. So Nisargadatta Maharaj is saying, if you can be like that, if you can give up all desire, all fear, and with complete faith, you relinquish control and give up all responsibility to him, then this is the shortest route to self-knowledge. But he also brings in a warning. He says, personal control and responsibility are in the mind, are in the realm of the mind. Personal control and responsibility are in the realm of the mind. Of course, as long as you imagine yourself to be in control, you should also imagine yourself to be responsible. One implies the other. So if I'm not able to surrender, I should not cheat myself and say I have surrendered, because I'm still having this ownership, feeling of ownership for what I do and what I need to do. I'm still very much a child of the mind. So as long as I feel that control and responsibility are both in my hands, then the karmic meter is running. ಕರ್ಮ ಚಕ್ರ ಉರುಳ್ತಾನೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ನಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ನನ್ನಿಂದ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ನನ್ಗಿಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನೋ, ಆಗ ಕರ್ಮದ ಮೀಟರ್ ಓಡ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. I imagine myself to be in control, then I should also imagine myself to be responsible. I cannot say, I will be in control, God, you take the responsibility. It doesn't work like that. The cosmos will not take over responsibility as long as I want to be in control. The Jiva wants to be in control. So one implies the other. The second choice will keep us within the framework of dharma, karma. The first one will take us into the complete framework of surrender, which is beyond karma. No ownership, no doership. Everything is handed over to the divine. So we know the story of Kissa Gotami. I will not elaborate much on the story. Kissa Gotami was in a village, and she was very ugly, the story says. She was a very, very ugly young lady, and it was very difficult for her to get a bridegroom. But she got married, and she was ill-treated by her family till she begot a son. As soon as a son was born to her, everybody started being very nice to her, very loving towards her. And the son was the apple of her eye. Her whole life revolved around her son. So one day, this little boy was playing in the fields. He was bitten by a snake and he died. So Kisa Gotami was not able to accept that her son was dead. And she heard that Bhagwan Buddha is staying in a forest, in a cove at the outskirts of the village. Carrying the corpse of her son, she went to Buddha and she said, Bhagwan, save him. You are a great one. You are known for so many miracles. Please protect me. Please save my son. And then Buddha, we know, asked her, if you can bring me some sesame seed or some till or some mustard seed. Different stories tell us different things. From a house where nobody has died, then I can save your son. So carrying the corpse of her son from morning till night, she goes from house to house, house to house. Everybody is ready to give her mustard seed. But then they say, sister, in this house, the dead are many, the living are few. My uncle passed away, my father passed away, my grandfather passed away, and so on and on and on. And finally, the sun is setting, and she understands the lesson that Buddha wanted to teach her. She understands that death is for the body. It is better not to reverse this. But what is immortal is the self. She goes back, she buries her child, and then she goes, kneels in front of Buddha, and she says, Bhagwan, I have understood. He says, have you brought the sesame seed? He says, the work of the sesame seed is done, O Master. I have understood what you wanted me to understand. The death is for the body. Now give me the wisdom for my soul. I want to feel the bliss that you feel the peace that you feel. Please give me your teaching. So here we see she came into alignment. So many people, so many of you, wonderful jnanis in this gathering, you replied, the present moment is the best one for me. Right now, this is the happiest moment for me. So till now, Kisa Gotami was fighting what life had brought. She didn't want to accept it. Then by the end of the day, because of the way Bhagwan Buddha handled it, that's the greatness of the Sadguru. He plows the mind before he sows the seed of wisdom. So by sending her from house to house in search of sesame seed from a house where no death has taken place, he had sowed, he had tilled her mind, right? And she was ready for the wisdom, and she had come into alignment with the present, complete alignment. She had accepted that her son was dead, and she is surrendering to the master, relinquishing control and saying, Master, share with me your wisdom. So this is the way to jnana. That is what we understand from this story. So Bhagavan says, if you have surrendered, you must be able to abide by the will of God and not make a grievance out of what may not please you. That's what happens, right? It happened in the previous story. But why the previous story? Our own life, so many things don't please us, right? And then we say, this should have been different, that should have been different, I should have done that differently, somebody else should have done something else differently, my life would have been different today. Right? So it is either, for us, most of the time, we say, my will, not thy will. Yes, we talk about the greatness of surrender. We talk about the greatness of faith and devotion. But yet, in the day-to-day mundane things of our life, we often say, my will and not thy will. But surrender is thy will, always thy will. There is no my will. Whatever is thy will, that is fine with me, because that's the best thing. That is what you think should be given to me at this moment. It is your prasada. It is your blessing. I accept it. I accept it with a full heart. That is surrender. Thy will and thy will and thy will. Not easy. I'm not saying it is easy. But that, says Bhagavan, is true surrender. Not grumbling, not getting into self-pity, not going on playing blame games because of you, because of you, because of you, etc. No. It is accepting whatever comes. That exact every moment is the prasada of Bhagavan. So when we accept it like that, that is great richness, the greatest wealth. So in these two shlokas of Arunachala Aksharamana Malai, Bhagavan says, Ninna nagali mana alayada teradali nillu chittadali Arunachala meredu ninna nija ರೂಪವ ಮನಕೆ ಹರಿಸು ಭ್ರಮಣವನು ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ Arunachala. So, free flow translation. Tether my mind to your feet. Tie my mind to your feet so that it may never leave you, O Arunachala. Reveal your true beauty so that the mind stops roaming and remains still, Arunachala. So, the devotee struggles with what? The mind that refuses to be obedient, refuses to just settle on Arunachala, on the deity. The devotee wants to think only of the Lord, but the mind has its own will. It would think of other things. So here, Ramana understands that struggle that a devotee goes through. So he is putting it into words. He says, Arunachala, I cannot tame my mind. You tie it to your feet. It's your responsibility. My mind should never leave you. That is all I pray to you. This can only happen if you reveal your true beauty to me so that the mind stops roaming and remains still, Arunachala. So there was a film song in Kannada, if I remember, some years ago. ಬಾನಲ್ಲು ನೀನೆ ಭುವಿಯಲ್ಲು ನೀನೆ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲು ನೀನೆ ನನ್ನಲ್ಲು ನೀನೆ. So when I was reading this shloka, I remembered that song. That is a song that beloved is singing to his lover. But this is the same song that a devotee sings to the Lord also. The sky is you, The earth is you. Everywhere I look, I see you. In my heart, also I see you. So when the true beauty of the self is omnipresent, when that truth, when that beauty is revealed to us, that is when the mind stops roaming. Because when the mind falls in love, then everywhere you look, you see the same self. You see the same Arunachala, that which is still, which never changes, which never moves, which is immortal, which is beyond birth and death, which is peace and love and compassion and bliss. So that we see everywhere all the time. That is how the mind is tethered to the feet of the Lord. So this is just Arunachala. Arunachala, who is the Agnilinga, who is the epitome of the self, Atmalinga. So let us just gaze for a moment at Arunachala, either in our mind's eye, we can close our eyes, or we can keep them open and gaze. I will just chant for a few seconds. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. The changeless self, the great stillness of the heart, passing peace, ever-present bliss, the infinite self. So that self, if we surrender to that self, that is true surrender. If we look at the life of Bhagwan Buddha again, the story of Angulimala, we all know how Buddha walked into the forest to meet Angulimala, who wanted to kill him because he wanted to slay 1,000 people and wear their fingers as a garland. So says the story. And Bhagwan Buddha would have been the 1,000th. He would have completed the 1,000, count of 1,000. And Bhagwan Buddha spoke to him with such compassion, with such conviction, with such peace in his heart, with so much love in his heart, that at the end of their interaction, Angulimala says, "This adventure is all that I seek, the adventure of conquering the small self, of transcending the small self, of being established in the self. in peace, in bliss, of being able to share this bliss and peace with so many others. Master, guide me on this path. I surrender to you. So we see there is a startling change, just like as in we see in Valmiki, Ratnakara became Valmiki. In the same way, in a very short span of time, maybe half an hour, 1 hour, or even less, the dacoit Angulimala, who was terrorizing towns and cities and kingdoms all around, whom no army was able to conquer, was conquered by the love of Bhagavan Buddha, who bore no arms, no weapons. So he prostrates to Buddha and he says, I will become your disciple. Please guide me. Take me from turmoil to stillness, he says. Then Buddha says, yes, it is possible for you, Angulimala. You can do it. But remember, the minute you become my disciple and return, and you go out of the forest with me and you return to civilization, all the dark deeds that you have done, they will come back to you. You should be able to accept whatever comes. Because all the seeds that you have sown, the seeds of violence, the seeds of himsa, they will come back to you. Karma is a self-addressed envelope. Now you are seeking to step out of the framework of karma. But first you have to face the consequences of your actions. The villagers will stone you. The villagers will try to kill you. They will seek vengeance because you have killed so many till now. Do you have the courage to face all this? This all is part of the changing world. But behind this, there is the changeless self. Will you be able to transcend this changing and establish yourself in the changeless self? It requires a lot of courage, Angulimala. Angulimala says, yes, my Lord, even so will I do. If your grace is with me, I have courage. And he walks out of the forest. He faces all the brutality of the villagers. And he becomes established in the self. He becomes a very great, well-known brother Angulimala, a famous bhikkhu of Buddha's order. So all this is part of surrender. So many different layers, so many different steps. We have the story of Desuramma. Akhilandamma was her actual name, but Bhagwan had given his own name to her because she came from a village of Desur, close to Tiruvannamalai. He used to call her Desuramma. So Desuramma for many years cooked for Bhagwan and his devotees, and after that she opened another center of Ramanashram. She felt that it is Ramanashram. She opened a center in Desur where she fed so many people. She shared her wisdom. She shared Bhagwan's teachings. If any of Bhagwan's devotees fell ill, she would take them to Desur and she would nurse them, she would feed them, she would nourish them back to health, and then she would bring them back to the ashram. So lifelong seva was being done by Desuramma. Guru seva and following the teachings of the Guru. These are the two things that are required for the path of Atma Vichara, for the path of Jnana. She was doing both. But she felt that somewhere maybe I have not understood the teachings of Bhagavan properly. And many devotees, they told her, Desuramma, Bhagavan has not given you Diksha. Not devotees of Bhagavan, but people who came to her center in Desur, they would say, you know, Sadguru has to give a special initiation. He has to give Diksha. He has to give you a special mantra. Has your Guru given you that mantra? He has not given you a mantra? Then how can you be his disciple? So She came, she was in Tiruvannamalai one day and it was full moon. One of the devotees of Bhagwan told her, Desuramma, today is full moon. It is extremely auspicious. So today, when you meet Bhagwan, you prostrate to him and you ask him for a special Diksha mantra. So Desuramma decided, yes, this I must do. So that night when she met Bhagwan, she prostrated at his feet and then she said, Bhagwan, please give me a mantra. So Bhagwan laughed and he said, oh, you want a mantra? Okay. Okay, sit down. Let me think. Then he looked into the eyes of Desuramma and he said, Unnai vidade ir. In Tamil, Unnai vidade ir. That means stay without leaving the self. Don't leave the self. Ninnannu bidade iru. That, he said, is your special mantra. And he kept gazing into her eyes for maybe an hour, for maybe 2 hours. And Desuramma says, he not only gave me the mantra, he actually made me understand what it means not to leave the self. In that 1 hour, in that span of 2 hours, there was no gap between me and the self. There was no small me. There was only the self with a capital S. So what does it mean? Don't leave yourself. What does it mean for a sadhak? What does it mean? If you think of this can have many different layers. One thing can be, there is nothing but the self. Every thought that appears in the mind, it is appearing within the field of awareness. So awareness is my true nature. Awareness is like the screen. Every thought that keeps appearing on that screen, it is just an appearance, temporary, and it goes. That is like the movie running on the screen. So if we get engrossed in the movie and we forget that I am the screen, then we suffer. Everything that seems to be happening in that thought or in that incident outside, it seems to be happening to me. I'm caught in the changing whirlwind. I'm buffeted. I'm tortured. But each time I'm hijacked. If I ask who is aware of this thought, who is aware of this emotion, who thinks that this is happening to them, then repeatedly I'll be able to return to the witness, to the screen, to awareness, which is my true nature. So by returning is in inverted commas because there is no moving away from the self or returning. All that is just experientially true for us. It is, I am never not the self. It is just a illusion that I have moved away from the self and I am returning to the self. But it is required. It is a required practice initially. When I move away, then I ask who is aware and I return. Or non-verbally, I shift the focus back to the witness. Then, how not to leave the self? By realizing that surrender itself is a myth. When you come to one stage of sadhana and you understand there is nothing other than the self, there is no other, then who surrenders to whom? Who relinquishes control to whom? But the initial stages are required, not that it is not required. But as you pass through those stages and you go deeper and deeper, then there is nothing other than the self. So surrender itself is a myth in that sense. So there is a tipping point when you have a balance. On one side, if you go to a fruit vendor, he will put the weights on one side, he will start loading the fruit on the other side. You come to a point where it is equal. Till then, if you put a one more fruit, then there is a tipping point. The fruits go down and the weights come up. So the tipping point comes when we realize who surrenders to whom. We start asking ourselves, who is there to surrender? And we let go of the idea that the individual or I exist apart from God. So when we let go of that idea, of that concept, of that belief, then that is true surrender. But that entire gamut of journey may be required for many seekers to reach this point, says Bhagwan. So we can say surrender is a transition from doubt to faith, doubt in the benevolence of God to faith in His benevolence, turmoil to serenity. Will this happen? Will that happen? Will I get something? Will I not get something? I leave everything to God. So I'm serene, from deceit to integrity, fooling myself that I am the body, mind, and intellect, to the understanding I am the self. There is nothing other than the self. Everything around me in the world is nothing but divinity. In fact, there is only divinity. Restlessness to stillness. As long as the mind thinks it is in charge, it is in control, there is restlessness. But when it relinquishes control, there is stillness. From duality to no other, Advaita. There is nothing other than the self. So let us close our eyes for a minute. In whatever way we can relinquish control, to whatever extent we can relinquish control. Let us offer it, all control, all responsibility, at the lotus feet of maybe our favorite deity, or at the feet of our Sadguru, or at the feet of the Atma or the Self. Every moment is a precious gift. There is nothing other than the Self. I am that Self. I am bliss. I am peace. I am infinite. Let us offer our gratitude to the Sadguru. May all beings be happy.